Pokemon Masters, Burkeeper Toby here, and okay, it's time to look at the first boss in the world of Pokemon. Sure, battling Red, that was something incredible, and we all know the legends about Whitney, one of the hardest Pokemon gym leaders ever. But what about the first ever boss battle? What about the trainer who is legendary, not only for how absolutely creepy he is around Nurse Joy, but also his status as the first gym leader in the world of Pokemon? I'm talking, of course, about Brock. How strong exactly was Brock? Was Brock even tough? Does Brock deserve a space on this, in one of these videos? I mean, I thought a lot about some of the tough Pokemon gym leaders I want to talk about, but Brock isn't really one that springs to mind. At least for many of you, he won't. But I want to let you know exactly why Brock was so hard for me to beat and why he was such a legend in terms of many players. Of course, let me know who you want to see next in the series. Why is blank trainer so strong? I'm not going to do everyone. I just have certain gym leaders and champions and rivals that I have in mind. And yeah, Brock was always one that I wanted to look into and just talk about for a moment. I feel like this video is going to be a little bit shorter than others in the series, so I do recommend checking out some of the others when you're done here. But essentially, where is Brock strong? Well, because again, it's the first gym leader. It's not supposed to be impossible to defeat. Brock is supposed to be a challenge that everyone can overcome. And what makes Brock any different to, say, Roxy, the Generation 3 Rock-type gym leader, who is the first gym leader, or in fact, Rourke, another Rock-type first gym leader from Sinnoh, whose name is literally Rourke, and you know, Brock, Rock, Rourke, that they are basically the same person. In what context exactly do I think Brock is tough to beat? Well, I can tell you for sure, it's not Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. I'm sorry, no gym leader is that tough to beat in these games. That's because a sort of permanent experience share is on, meaning that every time you catch a Pokemon in Let's Go, you get these kind of big experience boosts for the whole team. And with Brock being at the beginning of the game, being a Rock-type gym leader, 2 out of 3 of the starter Pokemon, Squirtle and Bulbasaur for Kanto, they're super effective against Brock, so it's not something you really need to worry about. Plus, in the Let's Go games, Bulbasaur can be caught in Viridian Forest, which in the other Kanto games, it cannot be. Also in the Let's Go games, depending on your version, you can get hold of either a Bellsprout or an Oddish. Both of these Pokemon are grass Pokemon that are super effective Pokemon. You can get them on the first route of the game. And your Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee can learn elemental moves, including water and grass type moves. So look, I'm not talking about Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu. I'm also not talking about the Johto games, because Brock is one of the last gym leaders that you face in those games when you revisit Kanto, but by that time you've got a pretty strong team that's going to be able to cover the rock type, and in fact, 2 of his Pokemon are Water Rock, meaning grass is quad effective. And I'm not really referencing Leaf Green and Fire Red, or Red and Blue version either, because like I say, in these games, 2 out of 3 of the starters are super effective. While admittedly, if you choose Charmander, it can be a little bit challenging, even in Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. Yeah, you might be struggling a bit, but because you're going through Viridian Forest, your Charmander is super effective, so it's leveling up to a pretty high level to take on Brock. Generally speaking, you're not going to struggle. Where Brock is a problem is in Pokemon Yellow. Oh boy, this is my first Pokemon game, and while this was not my original copy, Pokemon Yellow was where I was introduced to the world of Pokemon as a video game series. I'd seen the show, I had collected the cards, I had played with the figurines, I had seen Brock and his incredible Pokemon, Onix. And in Pokemon Yellow, he only uses 2 Pokemon, a Geodude and an Onix. And you gotta remember it, back in the days of Pokemon Yellow, Onix is a fully evolved Pokemon. It doesn't have any evolutionary lines, so its stats are pretty good. Steelix didn't exist at the time, and for a first boss, Onix made a lot of sense. But in Pokemon Yellow, wow, it was hard to beat. Simply because you don't get the chance to choose a Bulbasaur or a Squirtle, which will be super effective against Onix. You don't get the chance to get a Charmander that's going to learn Metal Claw that will be able to beat an Onix with that. You start with Pikachu, and that's similar to Let's Go Pikachu, but again, Oddish and Bellsprout, they're on Route 1 in Let's Go Pikachu, and you level up really easily in those games. In this game, there is no Bellsprout. There is no clear grass and water advantage. In fact, I googled it, and it turns out there's a whole Reddit post dedicated to how do you beat Brock in Pokemon Yellow. And in those games, while there are a number of ways you can do it, you can level up your Pikachu to level 60 if you want, just by grinding in the open area. You'll beat Brock that way. Or you can catch a team of 5 Pidgeys and just throw Pidgeys at him using Quick Attack. Sounds like a lot of fun. There are 3 accepted main methods for defeating Brock. Number 1, my personal favorite, the original one I tried, getting a Butterfree. Getting a a Butterfree isn't too hard, because getting a Butterfree, you get Butterfree at level 10, and while yes, it is quad weak to Rock being both Bug and Flying type, it has access to the very powerful Confusion, and one Confusion from a level 10 Butterfree pretty much always knocks out Brock's Onix, just to do with the special stat and the power of Confusion against an Onix. However, getting that Butterfree can usually be a bit of a task. You can get Metapods that are like level 7 in Viridian Forests, or you can get Caterpies which are down at like level 5 or 6. Naturally, you would think you would catch a Metapod and level it up. However, if you catch a Metapod in Viridian Forest, then it only knows Harden. You're much better off catching the level 5 or 6 Caterpie that knows Tackle, evolving it into Metapod at level 7, and then using that Tackle to then help it evolve further into a Butterfree. That is probably the most effective method, and usually takes about an hour of grinding before you even get to Brock's gym. Which again, that is a massive difference between Pokemon Red or Blue, where if you had a Bulbasaur, you just waltz up to the gym doors and one-hit everything. Just one-hit KO, just one shot, the whole gym. Option number 2 is the Mankey method, which usually evolves when you get to Viridian City, turning left, and a lot of beginning players won't do this because, you know, they didn't think to explore. Also, Mankey is a relatively low encounter in that area. But if you get a Mankey, you get its move Low Kick, and that is super effective against Onix, and that is a very good and effective way of beating Brock. A fighting move on a fighting Pokemon is stab damage, and of course, the other side of that is to get a fighting move on a non-fighting Pokemon, which would be your Nidoran male or female, which you can also catch on some of the earlier routes. And they're only somewhat rarer than a Rattata or a Pidgey. So okay, those are your 3 options, but that's just basic rock, paper, scissors. That's the Pokemon, you know, just understanding Pokemon weakness. So why am I saying that Brock was so tough? Well, if you were like me, and Pokemon Yellow was your first game, while nowadays, yeah, I can just choose any of these methods and walk through Pokemon Yellow and beat Brock on my first try, of course I can. If it was your first Pokemon game, and it really was the first boss battle, then yeah, you might know that Grass and Water beats Rock, but does Flying beat Rock? Wait, isn't Onix Park ground type? Does Flying beat ground? So would Pidgey or Pidgeotto be super effective? And how does Fighting work interact with that? And what about Nidoran? If it's using a fighting type move, is it less effective? These are questions that a beginning trainer who has never played Pokemon before wouldn't know. Brock was designed for Pokemon Red and Blue to be the first gym where 2 out of 3 tries you will have a super effective shot against this trainer. 2 out of 3 players will beat Brock with absolutely no problem, but when it comes to Pokemon Yellow, a game designed, by the way, in response to the success of the television series where we saw Brock being beaten like this, you know, with setting off sprinklers and then electrocuting Onix. You know, if you don't know that much about the game's mechanic, like I didn't when Pokemon Yellow came out because I was a kid playing for the first time, understanding how the pure mechanics of these things worked, it was very confusing. In fact, I didn't even realize at the time that Onix was secondary ground type, and that's why my electric attacks would hit Geodude, but they wouldn't hit Onix because it's immune. So I didn't know how that worked. I mean, it didn't help that my original copy of Pokemon Yellow was also in Spanish, meaning I didn't really understand a lot of anything going on. It literally took me 3 to 4 playthroughs of the game to even work out how the saving feature worked. But the point is, and I know Brock is a very different kind of trainer to the other trainers I've mentioned in this series who are actually tough. Within the context of a first gym leader, if your first game was Pokemon Yellow, and I think any of you, if your first game was Pokemon Yellow, you'll be able to agree with me in the comments. Brock, with his simple Geodude and his Onix, was an absolute monster. Because if Pokemon Yellow was your entry point, I think more so than any other game. If Pokemon Red was your entry point, again, 2 out of 3 times, you've chosen the right starter. If it was Pokemon Blue was your starting point, if Leaf Green and Fire Red, all of the starters had some type coverage. If it was Let's Go, you've got that built-in experience share, as well as super effective moves on the Eevee and the Bellsprout and the Oddish Look. If your starting point was Pokemon Yellow more so than any other game, then yes, Brock was very hard to beat. But maybe you think I'm over-exaggerating. Maybe Brock isn't really that tough, and hey, I would love to hear if you have any other strategy for beating Brock. The only other one I've heard is people using Pidgeotto to lower accuracy using Sand Attack, and then just getting lucky with Quick Attack hits and Wing Attack and Gust and that kind of thing. I'd love to hear your stories about how you beat Brock in the comments below. How did you do it on Pokemon Yellow? And yeah, let me know who I should be doing next in the series. And of course, so hi, Pokemon Masters.
This is Ash Ketchum. You just watched a video by Birdkeeper Toby. That makes you a Pokemon Master.
And a massive thank you to those of you supporting me on Patreon right now, including the big patron of this month, Gunnar Clovis. Thank you, heroes.